So my name is Anne Marie McGee. I'm a Philanos Board co-chair, and I also co-chair the Communications Committee, and then I facilitate the Membership Roundtable along with my fellow colleague Renee. And I am a member of Impact 100 Redwood Circle in Sonoma County, north of San Francisco. So, and I also am on the membership committee, of which Patty Callahan is our wonderful co-chair this year. So Renee, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Renee Gordon, and sorry for those of you who are hearing this twice. I am with the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle, and I am a board member of Philanos as well.
And Renee also is a member of our communications committee.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're very grateful for her eagle eyes and her past experience as an attorney. So she doesn't miss very much, which is wonderful. Um, so today we're going to talk about getting to know your members, or do you know your members? And I'll give my own experience from when I joined Impact 100 Redwood Circle. I joined in February 2018, and I was new to the area. And so someone had suggested, I think this is a group you might be interested in. I was interested in learning more about nonprofits in the area. I'd been accustomed to serving on boards in the East Bay where we moved from, and just wanted to see how to continue. So I went to a membership event and someone said, "We're so glad to see you." And I was really glad that someone wanted to see me because I really was making in the process of making friends. We were about 3 months living in our house. And so with that, they found out that I had a background in communications and marketing. And so there was a vacancy and said, "Would you be willing to co-chair the marketing communications committee?" And so I did that for about 4 years. Um, with that, I did bring some expertise to it because one of the things that amazed me is people didn't really understand the depth and breadth of the experience that members had. And so we did a survey. Um, and this went out to all the members. We asked them things like, um, what is your past experience with nonprofits? What's your professional background? Are you retired? We found out that over half of our members had served on some kind of nonprofit board. We found out that a very large number, it was up in the 80s and 90%, volunteered somewhere. And so that engagement, it opened the eyes of the leadership team because they said, wow, we now what do we do to elevate this and take this further and keep people engaged and keep our retention going? So at that time that we did the survey, we were about 2.5 years old. So it was inspiring because some people had no idea that people had served on some of these boards and had that experience. It was inspiring to understand why they had joined the collective giving organization. I mean, I was hooked from day one because the impact of my donation, as we all know, is so much greater when I combine it with someone else, as opposed to making our donations here and there. So that survey really inspired it. Now, I'll use another example from my circle. And Patty, feel free to jump in on this one. But we just did a membership meeting, a general membership meeting last month, and we did tables. And so at these tables, there was a facilitator and there was a note taker. It was all pre-planned, and people were assigned to sit at tables. So there were about 150 of our members there. And it was asking questions like, have you volunteered? Would you want to volunteer in the future? And just getting to know people. So there were notes from that. The note taker was organized, and they've gone off to people to discern who was there. But it also engaged people at the table. They were chatting and talking, and we didn't know the people we were sitting with. I mean, well, I knew a lot of them, but I would say there were people there. And in fact, one of our note takers who had volunteered, or rather, she was a facilitator. She's a brand new member. And then you find out she's been like a professional facilitator and she's done a lot of things since she was new to the area. And she's actually on my radar personally because I was sitting next to her to join a couple other things that I think she'll enjoy in the area. So that's the fun part. But how much information was gleaned from those table talks and that. So I'm just starting it off with a couple thoughts, but what are tools that you've used to get to know your members? And what are tools that you might want to explore or want to hear if others have used them? We all think, oh, we have to survey. And how do you get people to respond to a survey? You make it quick, you make it simple, you have some incentive, you make it interesting. But we can go further than that. How do you capture this information? How do you keep people thinking about it? So I'm going to start. And Renee, do you want to offer what Baltimore Women's Giving Circle does, or?
Well, I could do that, but on the session with me and everyone else is Pam Pasqualini and Heather Johnson, who are
Okay.
the co-chairs of our membership committee, and they can talk about it in more detail than I can. So,
Okay.
Heather and Pam.
Yeah, thank you. We have done surveys in the past, and we capture some of the information in Memberly. I think our challenge is once we have the information, what do we do with that information? How do we use that to reach out to our members, and who does that reaching out? That's something we've been discussing as a membership team. Is what do we do with this information that we have? And we're also talking about Heather came up with some suggestions for a survey to do this summer that would be a little more involved than we've done before, but to really capture people's interests and at the same time let them know, these are opportunities in our circle and this is what it's involved, particularly the time commitment.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Heather, do you want to add to that?
Just we we do capture the information in Memberleap. Like there's so many fundraisers, there's so many this, there's so many that, and we are in the process of setting up something to send out this summer to not only find out if what their skills are, but are you interested in putting them to work with the group, but and to kind of give them an idea up front what kind of time commitments would be involved. So we're going to the co-chairs of all the committees. If communications, who do you want? Do you want people for a single event? Do you want people a couple of times a month or one time a year? Because people need to know what it is they're signing up to do. And I think in the past, we've sent out long blurbs that do describe the committees, but it's overwhelming. And what I'm also in Impact 100 DC. And so they've recently done that to get more members for the membership committee and for communications. And it's a very broken down thing to see. Do you want to just do something once a year? Do you want to do this and that? So that's one of the things we're working on now.
No, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So, Patty, I'll pick on you next. Do you want to add anything to what I shared? I know you're fairly new, so.
Well, you're right. I think just my own experience is for somebody who wants to know members better, you just need to take the initiative to get involved. So right away, I joined the membership committee. So you at least get to know a group of 15 people rather immediately going to the monthly meetings. What we've done from our membership perspective is on our application form, it asks, do you want to be involved more? And it's just a checkbox so that if we see that, we know that we can approach a person. Although when we send our welcome letter, we send not only a welcome letter, but a list of what is available in volunteer opportunities from the different committees. It might be a subcommittee co-chair, whatever. I think the event that Anne Marie mentioned that happened recently was our annual meeting, and it was totally focused on this need for fostering members who could, in fact, come and into committee leadership because we need that that pipeline. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I started looking at renewals. People the forms when they renew. And somebody recently did check, want to be involved more. So I was able to contact that person because we hadn't been paying attention to that. We also, I'm thinking for the future that we should put a check mark there for I'm involved at the level I prefer to be, or something that captures whether somebody simply wants to be just a fiscal donor or if they really do want to get more involved.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Another thing, what to do with the data is when I was in the marketing communications co-chair, I made sure that I was sharing highlights that were coming up because from a high level with the leadership team. At that time, we had all our co-chairs and officers were on the same team. We've split it now into a steering committee and a coordinating council. So it's a little bit different, but it was helpful for the leadership not to make decisions, not to see an individual person, which is really in the membership committee, but they saw the big picture. Like, we do not have a pipeline coming through of women who are willing to serve, or we aren't utilizing the talents and making it personal. Oh, I know this person. I served on the board with them. There were a lot of different things that came through, but I put it in a presentation that I could share in 5 or 10 minutes with the leadership team. And that was helpful too to set expectations on where we needed to focus time. So that was one thing to do with it. So let's see. Marianne, do you want to share? I know you were writing away. I interrupted your note
Taking
taking.
notes. Yeah, I've been on SOS for 15 years now, and we're only 20 years old. So, and always membership and always education, and I'm always doing different things. And I know our St. Louis organization has done a lot with Philanos. I think we have at least 2 members doing something right now. I lose track. So, I think things have changed so much after COVID, just getting anybody out of their house to do anything. So when we plea and we ask and we try to introduce people, I think people have a fear that they're going to be asked to do more than they feel comfortable doing right away. Like, any kind of raising your hand may mean that you're going to be in charge of membership, right? So people are just flat out afraid. So we've tried a bunch of different things. We're doing some pop-ups and some meetups, things where people can get together in smaller groups. I'm in charge of volunteer outreach, and so we try to make the smaller groups. And of course, you end up getting the same people. It's like PTO in school, right? The same moms show up, the same people show up. We love us, but we'd like to reach out more. So that's why, I wanted to hear what y'all had to say too, because I couldn't make it to the conference.
Yeah, we want more friends.
Yes,
the larger our
people don't really know they want more friends. I think we've been hidden away for a while, and how wonderful it is to have more people to talk to and get to know. They forget that, and especially after you've been retired, you're leaving a comfortable place where you had been, or an uncomfortable place, and you don't really know how to touch your peers at this point.
No, that's a really, really good point. So making it connecting and saying we want more friends. I was actually a speaker in January for another circle and talked about one of the themes was if everyone here brought a friend, that like every single person and that particular group has about 350 members. Think of how that would grow and think of how many new friends you'd have and think of the impact you could make. So it's multiple things, friends is where it starts. I often say, and this applies to other organizations I'm in, that we want friends. And if you facilitate people being friends, they're much more likely to engage. So how to do that. So I love that. Yes, we want more friends. I'm going to stop for a minute. Marianne Bleak has put in a message about using wild apricot and the profile information. I would guess that most groups do not use the profile information in there because, for one thing, I I know in another group I'm in, we use a very basic version of wild apricot, and people do have the opportunity to fill out their own profile, and it's very low compliance. It's cumbersome. It's very useful to use wild apricot for that group to pay for monthly luncheons or something that you're going to that requires a payment. That's actually the purpose. And so your profile is updated as much as that. But a lot of people, there's still the option to send a check. And so it's both. But I am curious, does anyone here want to comment on wild apricot and how you might use it? Marianne.
Sorry, I was dyeing things yesterday. It's why my hands blue. Um, so wild apricot. Yeah, do you have a certain person that goes in and fills out minutia like that? Or who's in charge of doing the little important information that doesn't get put in sometimes?
Yeah, I think Patty, in Redwood Circle, it's still the technology committee that fills that out, right?
I believe so. In fact, it's interesting to bring it up because I'm new to co chairpersonship, and we recently had the death of one of our members, and so the president was saying, "Oh, membership takes care of that. Here's the operating procedure document," and I'm supposed to send a card and whatever, and we don't even have I said, we don't have the person's address. Well, I learned that it is on wild apricot. We don't put it in our membership directory, but it is in wild apricot for those of us who have access. And as a membership committee person, I do have access. But there's the person's family member's name wasn't there, so you have to depend on the trail of information from other members to get that information. It would have been very nice. When I belong to another nonprofit, and we actually have a sheet about who to contact. Of course, we come together for working in a thrift shop, but we have who's the emergency contact. And in our directory, we have pictures, and we have the person's address, and we have their birth date, and I think the birth date, and their email. So it's much friendlier in that respect.
Yeah.
So those are what I have.
Yeah, and I think Patty, you're referring to there's like a membership like a application that you have on, I think you can put on your phone so you can look somebody up. Is that right? Is that what you're using?
No, the directory, our directory that is available only to members
Right.
is on the website, but it has just, I think, name, phone number, email. It doesn't have address.
Right. But
Yeah.
then for you as co-chair, you can access Wild Apricot through the membership app. There's a app that synthesizes or presents it in
Oh,
a little
yes.
friendlier way, but only a
Yes.
couple people have that access.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
And Marie, I just wanted to get back and offer Pam and Heather spoke, and one of the new initiatives that we have that wasn't mentioned was zip code parties. What we're doing is we are identifying members in certain zip codes, and then we have several members living in that zip code who host a party. Or, it can be late in the afternoon, it can be a Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, and it's a way for members in that zip code to get to know each other. And as Marianne Barrett was saying, you get to make more friends. They're right around the corner. And this is a way that we're starting to use to get to know our members.
Renee, thank you. I've had my hand up, but the I guess it fades into the background.
We aren't seeing it, so wave or something. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I was going to say that we did it in the building that I live in on this street. There are like 6 condos that are a lot of older people, and we had a meeting at my building and found out there was, I don't know, how many women there were on that one street. that were members of Impact 100. So of Baltimore Women's Giving Circle. So everybody came together. We got 5 new members from that meeting. We're doing another one in April in one of the biggest zip codes. We also have new member socials twice a year. So if they've been in for 1 or 2 years, they come in, they don't feel overwhelmed like they're going to a big circle meeting and they know that everyone else there hasn't been there for that long. And that seems to help bond them.
Okay. What do you do when someone first joins your organization?
Anne Marie
Oh,
Laurie has her
Yeah,
hand.
oh
I do
yes.
have, hi, I'm with Many
Thank you.
Hands, DC.
Yes.
Do you have a sense, because it's not been clear to us, how many people actually join because they are looking for friends? Because that's always sort of the issue because we'll have these social things and everything, and sometimes it is only the same people who come. And so it's just, it's always these things where people say, yeah, I'm interested in that, I'm interested in that. And then when you look at the participation levels, it's far below what the enthusiasm, you hear is.
I think it's geography dependent. Patty, that would be great if you'd comment. So,
Well, I was just saying, it was interesting to hear the zip code. I was thinking of that myself recently because we're just getting started with a small group focus to try to tap into this interest in having some social contact, but not in an overwhelming 150 person meeting. A books group has started, so that's one thing that's gotten going. We have a person who's very active who is also on the board of our local community theater, and she has the idea to have something to do with performing arts. We have another person who's involved with the local symphony. So that's a potential interest group that could bring not just the regulars, but perhaps people with that passion. So that's one idea. Another woman wants to lead some I think she calls them stairway walks in San Francisco. So that would be a kind of an outing. And then a trip to the nearby town by way of our local train. So those are just ideas that have come up so people could get together in smaller groups.
So who
About
takes
other
charge of doing
circles.
those things? Who takes charge of
I'm
doing those
sorry?
things? Membership? Is your membership
Well,
group that would do?
Actually, we have an events person, and she's almost a one person show, but her big focus is our 4 large events. So she now has agreed to be the point person, but that doesn't mean she does all the work. She just will lead. If you have an idea, for example, to have a zip code party, she would be the one to tell you, okay, here's what you need to do in advance for the communications through our um, email blast, and here's what you need to do, how far in advance you need to get it in the newsletter, that kind of organizational um, role. And then a membership committee person will be liaison with her.
Mhm.
and I want to go back. This came out of members saying we want these types of events. So it wasn't just the membership committee saying, oh, we should do this. It was coming from feedback. So when you do know your members, not all groups may want these same things, but this is something it did come out of feedback from members. And I'll be curious. I want to add on to the symphony one for a moment. So I'm also on the symphony board, and another woman on the membership committee is on the board with me. She had this idea. She's on the audience development committee, and like everyone, you're trying to get your audience back after COVID. And so she said, I think we should do a women's night out. And so I will tell you that the CEO of the symphony, and we're a regional orchestra, a pretty successful regional orchestra with a great venue on the Sonoma State campus. But the CEO was dismayed because it's oversold. And so the thing is, for a Monday night, we have a set, and we all reached out to our network. She sent messages to several of us and said, please contact your network. And so here's what you get. You buy your own ticket, but then we'll have a pre-concert talk with the conductor, the music director, will have wine and we'll have hors d'oeuvres pre doing that, and then at intermission. And so it's too many. We said, really, you want too many on a night that we really need to fill? So we're actually doing it. There's a medical association that said, oh, we want to do this too, and we want to do this too. So board members were claiming the concert set that they could do this on only on Monday night, not on the nights that are subscribed. But women, it's women's night out and women only, and come, and what a fun thing to do. So even people that have season tickets on another night were saying, oh, well, I'm going to get a ticket for that because they want to be part of it. So I think there's a need for friendship. I also think it's has to have some grounding in something intentional, and a purpose. So Marianne?
Yeah, are you allowed to speak and coax people to join your group at that
Yeah.
event?
Yes. Yeah, that's the idea. Like I
Okay,
said,
good.
yeah, if everyone brings somebody, if they are an impact member, it means that they might get more engaged. But if they're not, they probably will want to be because they'll meet all these very fun women. So I think that's the kind of spirit you have to have. So Patty.
I have a question for the group that has the zip code parties. Do you have people also bring somebody new to that, or is it members in the zip code?
It's been a combo. The first one, I think there were 38 women on our street that belonged to it, and each of them were asked to bring someone else. And I actually got the property manager to send out building link to everybody in the building to see if they were interested. So we got a lot of people who, just wanted to hear about it, and we had a grantee speak. And then had time to talk. I think the one that's scheduled for the spring is just for members. And I think a couple of neighbors to get together and talk to each other and just, now you can carpool with somebody when you go to the circle. You didn't know that person lived 3 blocks away. They can pick me up on the way to such and such and so and so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. I'd like to hear from other circles. Are you doing events like a zip code party, doing other types of events that you might want to share with the group? Marnie, I know you're on.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. I'm sorry I have to keep my camera off. I'm traveling today.
Oh.
We do a lot of small group activities, and we've had good feedback. Like people did want to meet in smaller groups rather than in larger events, which we tend to focus on. So a couple of things is we've done movie reviews, like private movie screenings, or and then discussions afterward. We've done book discussions. We've tried to do community walks. That's been hit or miss. And I think part of the reason is that it doesn't require an investment. So it's a free event and you just show up and walk. But when you have a book or a movie or something else or an event that you ask for $10 towards it, people prepare for that or feel like they're on the hook and then do attend. So the walks haven't been as actively consistent, like we only get like maybe 2 or 3 people out at a time. We have not done the zip codes. We're in the city of Chicago, so we could do that. We've done a little bit now as our membership grows in the suburbs. We've done what we call more like a meet and greet. So it's members and friends and do coffees or cocktails.
Marnie, how did your group decide on some of these activities? Was it the interest of a person or someone that was willing to host it, lead it? Was it member feedback? How did you decide?
A little bit of both. We started hearing from members since the pandemic that they were looking for opportunities to do things more face to face. So like that was our first solution to that was the walks. We're outside. People are more comfortable doing things outside at the time. Then we had a couple of people that were interested in facilitating book discussions. We've done a couple of museum tours. One was I can't think of the topic, but it was the Holocaust Museum in Chicago had hosted a discussion on, it's almost like bullying or something. I don't remember the title of it. It had been traveling around the States. And someone that sits on the board and is also an Impact Grant Chicago member offered to facilitate it. So we've tried these things to see what sticks and what works. We try to minimize the amount of investment in them versus the turnout because they tend to be more intimate and it's hard to do everything for everyone. But one of the things on our membership forms, so we try to encourage everyone to fill out and update their membership profile. We use Membership Works, and we have on that profile, they're required to provide an address, their email, a phone number. We list volunteer interests. It doesn't commit them, but we update that every year to see what people's volunteer interests might align with our needs. And then we ask the questions like why did they join? Like, what is their interest point? So it could be because they like the cause, they believe in collective giving, they want to meet like-minded women. And so we have this list, and I can share it. I'll put a copy of it. Maybe it'll fit in the chat. Of these are the prompts, just so we can understand like why are people joining. And people aren't saying that they're interested in networking, then let's not invest a lot in that area because we're kind of strapped since we're an all-volunteer board.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Heather. Now
So
I see your hand.
I didn't take it down. I want to switch gears, and I forgot that I'm also an Impact 100 DC. And what they do for new members is the president has 4 or 5 teas at her house at the beginning of the year, because in January or February for new members. And those are really well attended. And a number of the people who later become very much involved have said that was why they felt welcome. They're having 2 social hours, one at a place called Clyde's and another one in the Navy Yard. So you get the downtown people and the uptown people. The Clyde's one is over the limit. So, and the other one has, I think, 30 or 40 people in it. So, and once a year in the spring, there's a restaurant whose owner is in Impact 100, and they open up their bar for people to come and meet. And they have people who've gone, regularly every year for the last 4 or 5 years. So we don't have big circle events. The only thing is the one thing at the end of the year for the awards. So these smaller ones, I mean, if you're in Chicago or DC or something like that, you can't really have a lot of centrally located things. Baltimore's a little different.
No, thank you for sharing that. I also want to add Heather's group. You added 100 members last year, right?
Yeah, 103. Yeah.
103. Thank you.
Yeah, that was hard work. But yeah, now we have to keep them. That's the problem.
Right. Right. Keeping them.
Yeah. Adding 103 members and the impact of that, that's
yeah, it was a third.
Yeah. I think no, thank you. It just goes back when I was talking in January, just if every person here brought a friend, found a friend, shared, how many times you've been in a class, I said people go to Pilates classes, they go to knitting classes, they go to all kinds of things. Chat with that person next to you, just find out what they do. And it's pretty amazing what surfaces. So, let's see. There's someone, Project W, are you willing to share some things that you do?
Sure. Actually, I was just thinking about sharing in the vein that you just described. We had a retreat. So we're under new leadership. Myself and my colleague Marianne became co-chairs about a year and a half ago. And unfortunately for us, we took it over from the founder. And the founder actually worked for our fiscal sponsor. So it was incredibly complicated to kind of decouple what she was doing as a founder, and we're all volunteer run. So as a founder slash volunteer, but then also as the program manager for the fiscal sponsor. And I think our fiscal sponsor has, I don't know, 100 community advised funds, and Project W is probably the largest. So, she legitimately did a lot of work for us, as a paid employee of the fiscal sponsor. But at any rate, it's just been very complicated. So what we ended up doing is we completely bifurcated our grant making with our fundraising. So my colleague is responsible for all of the grant making activities and the process that goes with that. And then I'm responsible for all of the what I call membership engagement, which is recruitment, retention, and everything you need to do to keep them and find them. So so we had a retreat, just that piece of the organization to kind of kick off, a year later. It took that long to sort ourselves out. To kind of kick off like, okay, who do we want to be now that we have this sort of greenfield opportunity to create a whole new a board, a whole new, way of going about this. And we had an intern of all things, a social worker intern for the fiscal sponsor who came to this retreat, and she suggested that we go through this eco mapping exercise. So I don't know who's familiar with eco mapping. Yes,
Yeah.
no, not
No.
really. Okay. So essentially what you do is it's formalizing what you're talking about, Anne Marie, is that you start with your inner circle. So you basically determine what you call like that sort of area of influence, sphere of influence. These would be like your best friends, potentially family members. If you work, your close colleagues. In my case, I play sports, so my teammates. So that would be your inner circle. And then your next, and so you would choose just 4 people from that inner circle that you would like to invite to an event. It doesn't have to be to join the giving circle, but in our case, we wanted to bring newcomers to our annual celebration because that's when we really show off. We gave away $60,000 to these 4 organizations, and everybody's such a feel-good opportunity. So we want people who aren't necessarily members to come and experience that. So the whole point was to have our board, create their own eco map, and then ultimately that would result in an invitation list to our annual celebration. So again, just going through my particular thing. So then I have 4 people on my list that I'm very close to. And then you go to your next sort of outer ring, which might be your neighbors, people that you cross paths with every day. I would say like kind of strong acquaintances. And then you go to your third level, and that would be like maybe the cashier at the grocery store, or, again, thinking about how you move through your world every day and those different levels. And then as you go out, you include more and more people. And so essentially, depending on whether you're introverted or extroverted, you can come up with a list of anywhere from 5 to 30 people. And then we divided it into 2 halves, or not necessarily equal halves, but 2 sections. So those sort of shyer people who don't necessarily, want to be on the hook for including potential, invitees to the meeting or to the annual celebration, they just have maybe their one-on-one list that over the course of the next year, they're committed to inviting those 5 or 10 people out for coffee. And then the other list would be give them Project W. We're going to send them an invite via the mail. We're going to send them an invite via email, and we're going to follow up with them and say, please come to our meeting. So and so said that you might be interested, blah, blah, blah. So that was how we're in the process of doing that. I mean, I'll report back in a month when we actually have our lists. But kind of theoretically, we should have hundreds of people that will potentially be invited to our annual celebration that wouldn't otherwise if we didn't go through this exercise. So I'm optimistic. Just to give you kind of order of magnitude, we have 93 members, and I'm sorry, 93 memberships. We are in a group membership quagmire that started with the founder who was sort of matching people up who didn't necessarily want to pay the full fare of our membership, which is $550. So if you count those people, we're at like 130 individuals who are invested in Project W. So if we double that number in terms of inviting, you know, non-invested individuals, and maybe 25% of them come, I mean, that could really help us as far as growing our membership. So I'm committed to that. I'm committed to growing our membership. And I'm committed to creating word of mouth beyond me having coffee with my best friend, which is how we got to our 93 members. When no shame on that. And our previous the founder is still heavily involved, and Project W literally would have never happened without her. So I do not want to, no disrespect to how she grew it. But my job is to take it to the next level and increase our impact, right? So this year we'll give away 60,000, and I hope to increase that by 25% next year. We'll see, but that is one way that we're going about it.
Thank you for sharing all that. That is fascinating because that's one of the questions that comes back. Well, we grew organically. Probably most of our groups did that. I know in my own circle, it was in living rooms. They like come and have this little house party and learn more, and it worked. But now how to go? And some feedback I hear is from others is that, well, I've asked all my friends. And
Right.
so, but have you really thought deep into that? And you're giving here's a process to go do that. If you were willing, I'd love to have this topic in May for the
Sure.
next membership roundtable and come back because then you'll have some information. But also we could go through the process of how you could do it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I facilitated it, to our Women Connect board. That's what we call it, last week. And I think it probably took, it's like 30 minutes. It really doesn't take too long to facilitate. It's pretty commonsensical. So I'm more than happy. Yeah, more than happy to do that. And I'll have data, you know, I'll be curious. I can tell you how many members engaged, how many of our board members engaged in it, and how many people it produced in those two cohorts, the sort of one-on-one cohort and the invite list cohort. Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to do that. And again, the TCF intern, our fiscal sponsor is the Communities Foundation, and the intern is a social work. She's a social work major at Westchester University, and she was just all over it. She was like, "This is the thing for you," and created the map for us and created the kind of that one pager how to, which I'm happy to share. I can just give that to you offline, Anne Marie. Yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful. And then she would have facilitated it for us, but she literally couldn't be at our meeting physically, so we just did it on her behalf. But yeah, it was an kind of random, but really effective, hopefully.
Anne Marie's about that. Anne Marie's internet connection is a little wobbly. So you're
I
back.
keep going in and out. I'm going to have to go back on the recording and pick up things, but I got the gist of it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see the little man out in my front yard yet. So hopefully we're having a heat advisory too here in Sonoma County, and we're going into the 90s, but um, yeah, not yet. As you can see, we're bundled up and then soon we'll be melting here. So um, somebody else. So
Ellie.
Ellie, yeah, go ahead, Renee. Thanks.
Oh, I was going to just ask Ellie.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm a little close. I'm using my phone. Well, hearing about Project W, and I'm thrilled to hear about it. You're right in our backyard. I'm with Impact 100 Philadelphia. And so I was thinking when you were talking about the intern, one thing we did this year and are going to do again this week is reaching out to all the higher ed institutions in our area. They're all offering nonprofit management master's degrees and things like that, similar. And I look through the curricula and I don't see a lot about philanthropy. It's about managing the nonprofit and things like that. So we've been trying to get students maybe to look at our organization as young philanthropists, which is at half the price of a donation for a general member. And so we've been reaching out to them, and we're doing a series of virtual info sessions so they can learn a little bit more from our executive director in maybe the first 15 minutes about women's collective giving circles. So it's not about our organization, it's about the national landscape or international. And so they can learn a little bit more about that. And then we have someone who has experienced our grant making process talk a little bit about that. And then we talk about upcoming programs. So we try to do the info sessions before we're doing an event. So in the fall, we did a panel on all the changes that we're seeing in the nonprofit world, consolidation and merger and things like that as organizations are changing. And that was certainly of interest to many people. And this spring, we're doing the state of the city. So the Pew Charitable Trust does a report on, Philadelphia. And so every other year. So last year they shared the results. They were embargoed. We did, we were hearing about them first. It was exciting. And they're coming back again this year. So trying to do member retention events, but also new member, reaching out for new members. I'm very interested to come back here in May to hear about the eco circles
Eco
and learn more about. Say it again.
Yeah.
I said eco mapping is what it's called. Yeah.
Eco mapping. That sounds
Well,
wonderful.
Yeah.
We
No,
are hearing over and over again that everyone has contacted every friend, family member, and
Yeah.
colleague. So we are looking for other ways. And we just discovered the co-chair of membership. I'm one of them, but the other is in a run club. And she told her run club and got somebody who had done this in high school. In junior year, they raised money, and then in senior year, they gave it away. So she said, well, I haven't done this since high school. And we were happy to welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, I just read a scholarship recommendation for someone who was in a group on campus called DISA, and that it introduced her to philanthropy, and then she's going to law school now in social justice, and it was just it was eye-opening to her, but it was that organization. So it's funny how, starting at the college level, high school level, we have some Philanos affiliates that also do some amazing things with high school women, and Impact Austin, for example, is a huge group, and they teach them how to vet the nonprofits, and then they end up making their own grant. It's become wildly successful. Tiffany, it's wonderful to see you today. Do you want to add some things this morning?
Not really. I feel like I'm terrible with names, but Project W, I'm interested in going back and listening to the things that she said. But for the most part, I'm in agreement. I've done a lot of the things that they have shared already. And, sometimes it works out good. Other times, not so much. Getting people to stay, I think, is probably the thing that we're experiencing more so now. Engaging with new members or new potentials is good. But I think that we need to work more so on our storytelling in order to get people to sign up better. So that's my struggle with membership. So thank you for the opportunity to share that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and part of it, when you go back to, do you know your members, or what do you know about your members, understanding the stories that will resonate to keep them engaged. What are the communications going out? Which is where part of this initially came from. And the mapping, how do you tell your story in that? How do you share your story? That's another one. So we'll definitely, it's on the, just consider it done for May. That'll be our topic. Thank you. Anyone else? So let's see.
Anne Marie,
Marianne. Thank you.
Question for you. When you had your members, they were assigned to a table and you had a facilitator and a note taker, what questions were asked?
Patty, do you want to comment on the questions?
If I can remember, let's see.
I know.
We asked if people were already involved in volunteering. The people who were involved with Impact 100 spoke up briefly. others spoke about other volunteer engagement. We asked what would motivate people to be involved in volunteering, and also what would be hurdles, I believe.
Thank you.
And actually, one of the things that came out of that, it's been mentioned already, is people are anxious about what is the time commitment. And some of our commitments, you can simply show up to help with an event. So, it's good for members to know that there are ways to be involved that are rather minimal as far as time commitment.
Interesting. I would imagine that those topics generated a lot of discussion at each table.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was loud in the room, that's for sure. But it was fun. And they had it timed. I think it was about 40 minutes for those table discussions. So people had a light breakfast, continental breakfast, and then some updates on where the group's going. And then these table topics were the center of it. So, and assigning tables, people at first, they come in a little grumpy, what? I can't sit with my friend. But they got over it. So that was
the other thing that came up is a desire. I think I've only been involved a couple of years, but before I was involved, I think there was an event in which the different committees had stations and people were able to do a walk around and check in for information about what that committee needed, what that committee was about, the time commitment, that kind of thing. That seemed to be, at least at our table, one of the ideas that sounded appealing to people who were considering volunteering.
We did that once, or we did that several times in the past before COVID. We have what we call full circle meetings that have a speaker, lunch, and what we would do is have tables before you got to the room, and each table was staffed by different committees, and people could find out about the different committees, the time commitment, this and that, and they could actually sign up there too if they were interested in the committee.
I think it's tough because you have working people still, and the luncheons just frustrate them. They can't come.
Oh no, we still have the luncheons. We just don't have the committees out in front.
Yeah. No, I mean, just to be able to avail that to people who are still working.
Yeah. No, that's in fact, when I joined Impact 100 Redwood Circle, we had we had 4 general meetings, and one was on a Saturday morning. The others were in the evening. And part of that, for reasons, it's harder to find a place up in wine country for venues. And there's just lots of reasons it moved, but it probably made it a little easier for working people to attend with those evening ones, and a Saturday. There aren't things during the day though, not in fact, the leadership team has moved from there. When I first joined, the board meetings were on in the morning, like at 11 a.m. at the Community Foundation. And I think now they're on Zoom in the afternoon, right, Patty?
Afternoon, but the board meeting, actually the committee group meeting is in the late afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like the membership committee, it's like 4:30.
Oh, yes.
And it alternates between Zoom and between in person. And that's been also really helpful for people, so better compliant. But, the purpose, if you do understand the makeup of your group and you understand what women are interested in and what will entice them to bring more people to the circle, that's really the crux of membership. How does that work? So we'll definitely do the eco mapping. I will make sure we get some information out to all of you that are here today. I'll send something out, but also we'll put it on the website as well, because it's fascinating. Thank you. Talk about a great way to jump in and encourage people. So no, it's not an excuse that you've already invited all your friends. You have more friends than you realize. What about that aqua class that you're in and that woman you're always next to. I hear these things. Oh, I guess, I've never told her about it. So, just it it it's all possible. So I want to thank everyone for spending their time with us today. And we have a survey so Nancy Clark, who's on here with the Philanos logo, she's our wonderful admin. She keeps things glued together, makes things go, all the emails that go out and newsletters and everything. She assembles all that, puts it together for us. Really the glue. So Nancy has, or there's a TPS score that we need.
I can't. Zoom did some kind of update and
Oh, sorry.
my polls are gone. Or my access to polls. I don't know what happened. Sorry.
That horrible message when you log in. We need to do an update. No, not today. Stop. No. Anyway, well, thank you.
I'll just mark it all for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Really appreciate you spending time, and we will do the next one. It'll be the third Tuesday in May as well. And it's May 19th, now that I can think there, for the next membership roundtable. In the meantime, we're always happy to take questions, email Renee or I. Email Nancy. She knows how to connect everyone. But
also, any ideas that you have for future membership roundtable discussions, please let us know. We're always happy and always interested in knowing what our members are interested in talking about.
We also welcome things for our education committee that could be broader topics, speakers. Maybe there's someone in your circle that's a recognized speaker and expert. So feel free to recommend them too. We welcome everything. The more engaged we all are, the better. I also want to make a shout out for our webinar in April 14th is a couple highlights from the conference. One of them is on creative membership strategies, and the other one is creative grant making. So these were sessions that were actually offered in Austin. And this session, it's on our webinar schedule. It's actually being done differently where people will be put in breakout rooms. There'll be a lot more engagement, a little like the affinity groups. It's a test. But most importantly, it's sharing content from those two sessions that focused on membership and on grants. So put a shout out for that. And if anyone in your organization is interested in communications, Comms Club is next Tuesday, and we welcome all kinds of participants for that. Even people that think they want to do more with communications, they're welcome to come. So similar to this. So anyway, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.